Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jay Albrecht with Job Cost Inc. Today we'll be reviewing our Job Cost Inc. Mobile Resource Manager desktop version. You're connected to a Windows workstation in front of me in Naperville, Illinois. I'm first logging in. My login determines what rights and privileges I'm allowed to do. In general, you can restrict access to pretty much anything, but for today I have superpowers. I'm allowed everywhere. When I log in, it can take each user to whatever screen they want. This happens to be the most popular screen, what we call a multi-day dispatch board. We'll get back to this in more detail in a little while, but in terms of dispatch board, you can have an unlimited number of dispatch boards. This one happens to be a week at a glance. This one's 2 weeks at a glance. This one's 4 weeks at a glance. This one's 2 days at a glance, just showing today and tomorrow. Also, instead of having days across the top, you could have hours across the top. So this particular one has hour by, and you can set whether it's 1 hour increments or half hour, quarter hour, and how many hours. This is the schedule for today, and this is the schedule for tonight. So you can have multiple dispatch boards. You can also have dispatch boards with technicians can have different skill sets. These 3 technicians have clearance to work at the airport. So if you've got an airport job, you've got to send one of these guys. These guys speak Spanish, so if you've got a job that requires a Spanish-speaking person, you need to send one of these 4. So all of these different dispatch boards are looking at the same master set of information. Now, on startup, we typically have loaded all your customers in from accounting, and this system is usually synchronized with accounting. So this is a list of customers. Now this thing that looks like a spreadsheet, it's actually a data grid. When you have a data grid like this, you can click on the column headings to sort by that column. So if you want to sort by city or sort by customer name, you just click on it. If I click on a customer, it opens up that screen. And this is the billing information. In this case, we're billing a PO box. Now there's a lot of data fields here. You can turn off or relabel anything that you're not using on pretty much any screen. There's a few restrictions, but so for example, this screen, it says the word customer. Well, suppose instead of that, you wanted it to say client or bill to. If you have administrative privileges, you can go in and customize this, and I can change it. Instead of saying customer, I'm going to change that to say bill to. Now, if I save that, close this screen, go back in, now it says the word bill to. And you can pretty much do that with almost any screen. There's a few limitations, but restrictions, but pretty much it's available to do on any screen. Okay, now underneath this customer, you can have an unlimited number of physical sites that you go and service. So this particular customer has 10 different locations with the same billing address. So then I can click on, and then at the bottom here, you have some hot keys, and these are actually configurable. You can see recent calls, all calls, equipment, service contracts, invoices, proposals, or whatever we set up here at the bottom. At the top, you've got a list of locations, and there's no limit. We have clients that will work for, let's say, Walmart, so they may have, 5,000 locations, or Walgreens, or any chain store. You can import all this data. You don't have to type it in. Now I'm going to bring up a location, ABC Building 1, and this is an actual physical street address. Then down here, you have information, notes about this location. Never send Fred, park on east side of building, whatever is specific to this site. You could have they might have a preferred technician. They really like Abe Lincoln. Now that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to send Abe Lincoln. He's just their preferred guy. And again, all of these data fields you can hide or relabel. The next set of things you might want to keep track of, depending upon the nature of your business, is what machinery or equipment is installed at that location. Now there's 3 ways to do it. Suppose this location, they have a GE generator. I could put that in words, model 2000. I could put that in words just in a note here, or I could set it up in an actual data field, the piece of equipment, or better yet, I could set up a whole schedule or table of equipment. So let's add a new piece of equipment. They have a generator and manufactured by, let's say, GE, and it's a model 2000. Now we may have other information about that. We may have the serial number, okay? We may have some kind of filter or something that you want to configure for that unit, okay? And again, it may have these are all data fields you can hide or rename them as you see fit. And maybe this generator, it's linked to front half of building. So we've just added a piece of equipment at that site. And there, again, there's no limit on how many pieces of equipment you can have at that site. Now today we're focused on the desktop, but all this information is accessible out in the field on our field app. Also, if you have a new client, maybe the first time your technician goes out there, they can do a site survey and record the, all the equipment that's at that site. So that's very common that we have people on our field app will put it in and then it flows into the database. Now once this data is in here, again, it's linked to it's what we call location equipment. Okay, now I can look at, let's say I go to my equipment folder here, I can say, show me all location equipment. And if I scroll on down here, you'll see there's all the GE 2000 generators, including the one that we just entered in right there. So you can have a master database of every machine at every client location. And so if there's a recall or some promotion, you can address who has that unit. Now, the menu on the left, this is also highly customizable. Here's an entry that I had done from a previous demo. Let's say I'm done with that. I can delete it, takes it off the list. So you can make up whatever folders you want, and then inside the folders, put the appropriate information. You could even have folders for specific people. So I've got a salesman, George Washington, and he can click on this and get a list of all customers, or he could get a list of just his 37 customers and prospects. Same thing, Thomas Jefferson could click and just get a list of his 6 customers and prospects. Okay. Now back on the customer, going through in a little more detail, most of this is just informational, except when you go to send a proposal, it's going to try to send it to that email. When you go to send an invoice, it's going to go that email. If you mark a customer on credit hold or PO required, when you enter in a service call, which we're going to do in a little while, we're going to get some pop-up warnings, or COD only. Same thing, salesman. We can make certain fields required. For example, at our company, every time we put in a prospect, we must assign them to a salesperson. That way, there's some responsibility. Also, when you put in a customer, you can put a customer type. So for example, if you mark somebody as a prospect, we can set it up so this information does not flow over to accounting, because accounting doesn't care if they're just a prospect. But once they become a customer, let's say they're a property management company, then it's going to flow over, or you could just mark it as a customer, then the information will flow to accounting. Now, besides the normal name and address and fields, over here you have user fields. So when the standard software, these are not filled in, you can relabel these to be whatever you want. And then down here in the lower lower left-hand corner, there's notes about this customer. Now I can maximize the screen and you'll see more information. Or I can click the note tab and it shows me the same thing that's in the lower left corner will get expanded to the whole screen. Also in the lower right corner, you'll see a list of documents. This is what we call a fuzzy link. This customer is named ABC, so it searched my local workstation or server or Dropbox to see any documents that have ABC in them. So it's not perfect, but it's very good in that, if I've got a customer ABC and a document ABC, they likely go together. So I could click on a document and it could just be a picture, or it could be an Excel workbook, or whatever whatever kind of document you've got, or a JPEG file. It's my house. Okay, now the same way you have documents related to a billing name, you have the same thing related to a location. So if I go to ABC Building 1, it's going to have files with ABC. Or if I go to Strip Mall, I don't have any files in there that start with the word strip, so it doesn't pop up anything. Okay. Now then, at the location, we've got the location notes, and someone had a question about the equipment. Let's see the chat. Can I make salesman tab required or data field? Yes, you can. Actually, you can make any field required or non-blank, but salesman, yes, you can make it a required field. If you have any questions, please send it, type it in on the chat box, and I'll try to address them as I go through. Someone have a question on the equipment tab? Please send it in. Okay. Now then, on the equipment tab, you can relabel or hide any of these data fields. Now, another thing, you can put in equipment whether or not this client has a maintenance contract. So let's say they're just T&M, you can still record what equipment is there. Also, you may not have installed it. Fine, you can still record what equipment is there. You may not know the serial number. Fine, I can erase that. You can still record what equipment is there. So as much data as you have, you can fill in. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can just be grown over time. Now, obviously, the reason for having this is when the client calls in, the more information, better profile you know about that site, the better you're able to address their problem, and hopefully you bring the right parts to avoid a wasted trip. Okay. Now, another little bit about background setup. You put in your system all your employees. Now, we call it employees, but it's really resources, because it might be employees, but you may also put in pieces of equipment, trucks and equipment, and you may even put in subcontractors. Anything that you want to track and schedule, you put in as an employee. In a future version, it'll be called a resource. But okay, so then on an employee, let's say I go into Abe Lincoln here, you've got information about the employee, and then is he allowed to log in? That's, because you could have employees that don't use our software but that you're tracking. You can put in contact information, their mobile phone, email, and text messaging. You'll see that later, but if you send them a text, this is his text message, contact information. You can have notes about the employee data user fields. Also, here's where you can specify on our field app how many days to send out to the field. You may have a guy booked for the next 2 months, but you're only going to share the next 2 days with them. So whatever settings you put on the employee, that affects what gets pushed out to the field app. Okay. Now, one other thing that you can put, after somebody's in as employee, then you can set them up as a technician. So technicians are a subset of employees, but in real life, you probably have, for every employee, they're also a technician. Now, when somebody's marked as a technician, let's go into Abe Lincoln here. We've got all the information that we put on employee. You can put in, if he's assigned a specific truck that's always with the employee, you can fill that in. You can put him in a territory. You can assign him to a department. You can have a type of technician, like this is a technician as opposed to a subcontractor, or you could have apprentice, journeyman, foreman, different levels of technicians. Statuses. You can have certifications. Now, this is just, these are more like, there's an expiration date on a certification. So you can say this guy is certified, he's got security level 1 clearance, and it expires February 28th this year. But what's more useful than all that is ratings. Here's where on an individual employee, you can check off all his different ratings or skills. So in this particular example, Abe Lincoln here is cleared to work at the airport. He's got, he can speak Spanish. He works for the service department. He does residential work and he's level 1. So he has all of these skill sets. Now, in terms of adding a skill that you might want to track, okay, that's done over at, if you're an administrator. Now, not all of the users that were on this call have access to this, but under File Administration, Application Configuration, that's where you set up your lists. So this is a list of departments. This is a list of priorities. This is a list of technician ratings. That's what we were just talking about here. So let's say I wanted to set up a new rating. I could just click Add here, and I'm just going to make a rating called Level 3. So now that's a technician rating. So now I could go to Abe Lincoln and say, well, he's not a level 1 anymore. He's a level 3 guy. So he now has graduated up to a certain skill. And again, there's no limit on how many skills or ratings a guy could have. So this is a very powerful way because you can set up your dispatch boards, to look at this. So let's go do that. So I set up a rating called Level Space 3, and I'm going to go into the system, and I'm going to take this and save it with a new name. It's often easier to copy something than just build it from scratch. So I'm just going to set up a dispatch board with skill level 3, and you have to hit refresh to get that in there. And so now we've got a board that's skill level 3. Then we go into the options for the board. Now these little buttons at the top, this goes forward or back a week. This refreshes the data. This will map the data, which I'll get back to. This will print it. But the thing with the little check boxes there, that's your options. So if you click that, these are all the options for this dispatch board. And I'm going to go in here and say, just show me people that are level 3. Now, you can also have a combination. These are all people who have airport clearance and are level 3. So these are ands if you check off more than one of them. So let's just say we only want people that are level 3. So now there's only one person in the company that's a level 3 technician. And so he's the only person listed on the dispatch board. Now, as you get new employees or as people pick up new skills, so let's say I go and George Washington, let's say he's no longer level 1, now he's a level 3 guy. So now he's going to appear on the level 3 board. So when somebody picks up a skill, it's automatically going to be added to the set of skills they have, and it automatically added to the dispatch board for that skill set. Okay, so let's go back to those dispatch board options. Okay, this is called a multi-day board because we've got that. When a board opens, it can start either on today or on the Monday of this week. So that's today, tomorrow, or this Monday. And then a start time, it can start up. Now then you can have filters, so you could have a dispatch board for a certain department or a certain territory or a certain status or rating. You know, but most often people use ratings, but these are all available. The advantage of using ratings, you could have somebody, let's say they're in multiple departments, well then you can't use department because it's a single data field. Okay, they can be department A or department B, but they can't be both. But if you use ratings, they can be in multiple. For example, I could have a technician, let's say Abe Lincoln, and he is, he can be a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. So one guy can be multiple levels. Now someone had a question about these dispatch board settings. The settings that I just changed, they only affect the one board that I'm on. Each dispatch board has its own list of settings. So when I go in and change something, okay, whatever it might be, if I change this, I say only give me people in Department A and who are level 3. That setting only affected the one board that I was on. And by the way, I don't have anybody that meets those criteria. If I change this to level B, okay, or sorry, Department B, again, I don't have anybody that meets those criteria. Okay, now if I remove that setting and just say level 3, now I've got 2 guys that fit. So those settings, so I've got, in my demo here, I got about 15 different dispatch boards. Each board has its own settings. Now let's continue on with these settings. You can set the sort order, what order people come up. You can sort them by first name, last name, a variety of different things, truck number, etc. Okay. You can also set how wide this first column is. So depending upon what you want to see, you can set the width of that column, the number of pixels. That's right here. You can also set the width of these columns. You can set how many days, 7 days. Right now we're on the multi-day board. You can also set over here, you see Saturday and Sunday are grayed out on this board. Suppose I don't want to gray out Saturday. Well, I could uncheck that, but I could still have it as a skinnier day, or I could uncheck that and just have it show up like any other day. So now I go in here, Saturday is appearing just like a regular work day. Okay. There's other settings. You can actually configure what appears in this name. Like right on this particular board, I'm showing first name, then last name, then cell phone number, then skill sets. This information is all configured on the second page tab. So I'm showing first name, last name, mobile phone, and rating. That's what's right here. Okay, now then I can set up what appears in this box right here. Each appointment, and we're going to get to these in a minute, I can set, in this case, I've got a schedule code, like this says vacation. I've got a start time, 7:47, then the name of the location, then the type of call and description. So this is what would appear in this box as much as I have room for. Now this menu on the left, I can hide it. You see at the top here, there's a hide button, so I can hide that. Well, I can't do it while I'm in here. I gotta set it. I can hide that. So I could make today wider, so I can see more information. So we're at this time, we're at this location, and we're doing an install. Now also, you see this black bar down here. As I mouse over the calls, it gives me more information about that call. So that's very useful. So without clicking on it, I can just hover over it and see more information. Just like you can configure what appears in this box, you can configure what appears on this bar down here. So these dispatch boards are highly customizable for each department, each person, you know, whatever, and there's no limit to how many you can set up. Okay, so now let's go through the process of taking a call and then scheduling it. There's basically two ways to do it. You can enter the call in one step and then schedule it as a two-step operation. Or you can do what we call a quick call, where you enter and schedule it all at once. So let's say I'm going to do the first method first. So I'm going to, the phone rings or I get an email. So I'm going to click the red call phone, and the caller is Joe. And he says, okay, I'm at ABC. Now I could type in ABC, and it brings up every location that starts with ABC. So if I've got, you know, or I don't, if I just type the letter A, it brings up all A locations. Now I can look it up by name, by address, by phone number, by city, whatever you set up. You can have any number of different lookups. You can even look up by serial number. You know, if you tell me a serial number, I can tell you, I can find that machine and tell you where we think it is. Okay. So let's look it up by name, AB. So I'm going to select ABC Building 1. Now we have a pop-up warning. It's actually two warnings. This customer's on credit hold, and PO must be entered for this customer. Now again, the reason these warnings popped up is because this customer was marked credit hold and PO required. Now it lets me proceed, but I've been warned that there's an issue here. Also, it tells me in red they're on credit hold and PO required, and they do not currently have a service contract. Now up here it brought up information about this site and directions how to get there. Down here it brought up information about this customer. Nice guys, but slow pay. Now in this case, this was a customer that was already in our database. Suppose we looked and they're not in there. Then you would click the new button and put it in as a new location and a new customer, or a new location for an existing customer. Or you can even move locations. Let's say a building used to be maintained by XYZ Property Management and it's now being maintained by ABC Property Management. You can move that building and all its history to a new customer or an existing customer. So it brought up information about this location. Right now the call is unassigned. It logs today's date and time. Now you're looking at my computer, so you're seeing Central Time. Ask what department. Now that defaulted in. You can set the defaults here, and you can hide any of it. You don't not want to use this, we can hide it. We can make it required, as you see fit. So let's say it's going to go to the service department, call type. Now again, you can make this list up to be whatever you want. So let's say system down. Okay. You can assign a salesman. Now that could have come from the cut location, or in this case, it defaulted in based on the customer. The customer salesman's George Washington. Priority. Again, you can make up priorities, whatever you want. Let's say we're going to make this urgent. Project number. Now that might be your number or it might be your client's number. This is a number you can type in. It's alphanumeric. It can be whatever you want. So it can be GH 17-001 or whatever number you like. Estimated hours. If, again, as option, you could put a budgeted hours. Well, you know that these kind of calls usually take 3 hours. Customer PO. If I tried to save this without putting something in that box, it won't let me. Okay, cannot save, POs required. So here, now I could fake it out and put in, you know, Joe 123. Well, that's a PO. It'll accept it. You can mark whether the call's billable. You've got some date fields. You can, maybe there's a requested date or a due date or a deadline date. Okay, you could have requested time, not to exceed. Maybe they're giving you a budget on, you know, not to exceed $1,000. In this case, Joe's calling in the problem, but when I get on site, I'm supposed to see Sam. Okay. Okay, and then remember, you can hide these or relabel them to be whatever you want, and or make them required as you see fit. Down here, description, system, you know, will not power on. And that's an unlimited description. When I click save, the system assigns an internal tracking number. Now, it's think of FedEx, UPS, it works just like that. Everything has a tracking number. Now in this case, I assign that number when I put a call in, and this was a service call, a repair call, but suppose somebody was calling in and wants a quote. Well, you could put it in the sales department and mark it a request for proposal. Or maybe you need to go out and look over the facility, so we're going to call it a site survey. So this can be used, but the key, whenever it's entered, we've assigned that tracking number, okay? Now, most of our clients use this number here as the work order number, ticket number, job number, task number, inspection number, whatever they call it. So most of our clients use this number, but you know, you could use this as the number too instead, or you could use both. Now, also something to mention, you can have many work orders or many jobs at the same physical location. So what is a job might be in accounting, that kind of gets into accounting, how you do cost accounting, if you do cost accounting. But in our system, we allow many jobs at the same location. Okay. Now, we haven't scheduled this. All we've done is enter this call and record it. So now it's gone down here on my list of work to be scheduled. Now I had this sorted by priority, so it jumped up to the top of the list. If I sort it by date of call, it's at the bottom, because if I sort it by location, it's at the, you know, I can sort it by city, it's in the middle. So you can click on these column headings. You can also define what appears below here. Right now I'm showing the emergency calls or the non-planned maintenance. But after I've handled those, I could say, well, show me any planned maintenance due within the next 30 days. I don't have any. Show me any planned maintenance due within the next 60 days. Okay, here's something due April 1. Maybe we do it early. So if we're slow, you can do that. So you can configure what appears below the dispatch boards. Now there's many ways to assign work, but the easiest way is drag and drop. Now, I'm going to click this blue bar, drag it up, and assign it to somebody. Or suppose I'm not sure. Suppose I promised the customer, okay, we're going to be there Friday afternoon. But if I know I'm going to send, I could put it on a person. But notice I've got a person called unassigned. So let's say I'm going to book it for 1 p.m. Friday for 3 hours. So it's booked with the customer Friday, but it's not yet assigned to a technician. Once I know that I want to assign it to Thomas Jefferson, I can just scoot it down or move it to Andrew Jackson. Now suppose I have a task that needs more than one technician. I can right-click it and change technicians, and I can check off all the things that I need, people, equipment, subcontractors, to do this call. So let's say in order to do this, I need Thomas Jefferson and Andrew, and I need the delivery truck, and I need XYZ subcontractor. So I'm making one appointment with 4 resources. Okay, now if I move that appointment to Saturday, it's going to move the whole package. Now right now we're on a board just showing people, but if I look at my equipment board, it's going to be on my equipment board. Or if I look at my all board, okay, and I move that call to Saturday, even though Saturday's gray, I can still move it, it moves the whole thing. It's one appointment with many resources. Okay, now I can also have a job that requires multiple days. So I'm going to grab one of these jobs down here, the Berwyn School District, okay, and I'm going to schedule multiple appointments. We're going to start this job, let's say March 7th, and the job's going to run through March 16th, March 16th, and we're not going to work Sunday or Saturday. And we need, in order to do this, Abe and Thomas and a Bobcat and a subcontractor and a man lift. So what it just did, if I go ahead and look at March 7th, you're going to see all the way through the 16th, these resources are booked out. Now let's say March 10th, this looks like one long appointment, but it's not. It's really separate individual appointments. Let's say on March 10th, Thomas Jefferson isn't going to be there. Well, I could go in there, I'm going to remove him just from that one appointment, and I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to change the status, and let's say he's going to take a vacation day that day. So on March 10th, Thomas Jefferson's on vacation, so he's not going to be out on this job. So one service call can have many appointments. This is all call number 103796, but it's got all these various appointments. And each appointment can have its own list of resources. So let's say maybe I don't need the subcontractor. Let's say that, the first day I don't need them. And let's say I don't need the subcontractor the second day, but I do need the man lift and the Bobcat. So each appointment can have its own list of resources, and they can be changed or as you see fit. Okay, now what I just did there was I took the call, it went below the line here, and then I scheduled it. Suppose the phone rings, it's super hot, it's an emergency, we need somebody there now, and I see that Andrew's available. I can go to today, Andrew, right-click, and say new service call. This is what we call a quick call. So I'm going to put in a call for the Bartlett Public Library. I got my pop-up warning, it's on credit hold. And, this is, I'm just going to mark it, it's an emergency, okay? Alarm is sounding, okay? And let's say it's going to be today, let's say 4 p.m. So that entered a call and put an appointment today with Andrew, because that's where I was when I clicked to create the call. So that's a quick call. Now, I could take it at any time, and I'm going to move this call from Andrew up to Abe. Okay, because Abe's in the area, so instead of Andrew doing it, we change our mind. So even though you did a quick call, I can move it once it's created. Now, color coding. These can actually be changed on the desktop app, but not the mobile app, but we kind of recommend you leave them the way they are. So, black is completed. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the job is completed. That means I completed the work for today. Okay, not that the job is closed, but I've completed today's work. Gray with the line through it's canceled. Red is bad. Abe has not turned in his time for yesterday afternoon, so it's showing up in red as a missing time card or a missing work order job ticket. Okay, so it was assigned to him, but he's never turned in anything. Green is tech on site. Blue is in the future. Yellow is tentative. Dark blue is confirmed. And then we've got some other acknowledge follow-up, so if let's say one of these, I can right click it and set it to follow up, it changes it to purple, okay? So these colors that you see here, they will appear on our mobile field app, okay, that we're gonna cover next week. So we kind of suggest you leave them the way they are. Not mandatory, but preferred. Now, communicating from the office out to the field, you've got many ways to do it. So I'm going to, go to, let's take this, emergency call. I'm going to move this back, and I'm going to take this call that was scheduled for tomorrow and move it to today, and then I'm going to move it up here. Also, by the way, if you have an overlapping schedule, you can set up to warn you. So let's say I'm going to book 2 things. I'm going to change the time here to 4 o'clock. Okay, so now that's allowed. I've got a guy double booked, but you might say, no, I'd like to know about that. So I'm going to turn on a warning. So now, if you ever have a double booking, it circles it in red to tell you you've got double or overlapping. So again, let's say this first thing was supposed to start at 3, but it's going to take 3 hours, so it's still an overlapping booking. So it's going to tell you, hey, there's a problem here. So I'm going to fix this problem by moving it from Andrew up to Abe. Now I fixed the problem. And down here, I'm going to take this job and move it to Friday. So I fixed that problem. So for communicating out to the guys, option 1, even if they have a dumb phone, you can send them a text message. So this was the first call we did where the system is down, system will not power on. This is also useful if you have subcontractors. So the guy doesn't have our app, or forgot his phone today or tablet, you can still send him a dumb text message. And you can send this text message to multiple people. So if there's a true emergency, it can go out. Option 2, you can kill a tree. We can print a paper work order. Okay, so this would have your name and logo, and you can still kill a tree. And we have many clients that still print paper work orders. Okay, even though we like them to all use our app. And in this particular example, we're showing all the equipment at this site. So this site, they had 7 pieces of equipment. They're all listed here, so the technician knows what he's walking into. Also, if we quoted anything, we haven't quoted anything right now, but if we did, it can show down here with or without prices. So, the guy in the field knows what he's walking into. Option 3, these can be emailed. I can click email. It'll take this work order, convert it to a PDF, and draft an email. So it's going to send, and again, this is useful. Suppose you're hiring a subcontractor and you want to send them some document. So this document can go to XYZ subcontractor. Okay, I'm going to abort that. Okay. Now, this particular work order showed all the equipment, but you can specify on a work order what piece of equipment you think you're going to repair. So let's say we think we're going to work on the GE 2000. Okay. Well then, if I do that, when I print a work order, I can just see the equipment to be serviced. So this is kind of the same thing, except this is just showing the one piece of equipment that we think we're going to service. These papers can be formatted differently. This is just a generic sample, but it's quite popular. It's got the, your logo, name, number. This is where the bill goes. This is where the work is done, directions, etc. Whatever you want. So we can format these to be however, to look however you want. Okay, and I can print it again. Here's one, instead of calling it a work order, this just says inspection. Okay, so it's the same information, just formatted with a different word at the top. Or here I could print one as a PO. So I could, if I was hiring a particular vendor, I could, and it with a price, I didn't put that in, but I could use this as a PO to a subcontractor. Now, as long as we're in this area, some of our clients use this system to generate proposals. As it happens, I have a library here of sample proposals. I've got 5 different proposals. If I go in here, this is a very simple proposal with 3 lines. Now, this isn't for any particular client. This is just a generic sample. Sample number 93. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my service call that I've got in there. Nothing is quoted right now. I'm going to copy template 93. So it copied this in. Then I could go in here and change whatever I wanted. Let's say instead of 4 hours at 80, I'm going to make it 5 hours at 85 or whatever. Okay. So now, and in material, I'm going to put in some price here, $777. And I'm going to print this as a proposal. Now, this is what we call a detailed proposal. I'm showing them 3 lines, individual prices extended with the total. Instead, I could print this total only. So here's a proposal where I'm showing them what we're doing and just giving them the bottom line, no detail. Or I could print a proposal with no total. Suppose you're doing a proposal and you're giving them option A or B or C. Well, you never want to total those up because they're mutually exclusive. So here, I'm just quoting them some individual prices, but no total. Now, if you do put prices or estimates on, when you print a work order, if you want, that information can appear down at the bottom, so you're telling your technician you've budgeted 5 hours. Now, you don't have to have the prices on. This is just an example. But let's say he's picking up a check. Well, then he's got to know the prices. But if he's not picking up a check, then we have many clients that do not share pricing with field technicians. Okay, and you can have one with prices and one without. Now, the charges on here I copied from another call. Option 2, instead of just copying, I could pick an individual part from my price list. So here's just some part of drive belt, okay, and I picked it from a list and added it to the service call. Another way to do it is, suppose I've got a list of parts in Excel. I could import them from Excel into our system. So I'm going to do what we call an import. I'm going to go in and pick in Dropbox I just imported these 3 lines from an external CSV text file. So these 3 lines were imported. This line I typed in manually. These 3 lines I copied from another proposal, from a template. So it's very easy to get charges in from multiple sources. They're all going on to the service call. And then once I get it in, I could say, well, no, I want to delete that row, and I want to delete that row, but I want to keep that, and I keep that. So keep this oil gauge. Now, also these parts can have codes on them for departments or GL numbers or phases or cost codes. So, when I'm on a part like a drive belt, I can have a selling price, but I can also have a cost. Okay. I can also say where that part's coming from. If we're buying a part on a PO, I could put a PO number in. I could also specify what machine this part is being installed in. So I could say this part is being installed in this GE generator. Okay, so some of our clients want to keep a machine profile of every part installed in every machine. So you can do that. Now, the way these times get updated throughout the day, if people have our field app, guys in the field can punch in and out, and it will automatically update the database in here. But let's say a guy doesn't punch in and out, or forgets to punch in and out, or doesn't have his tablet today, or doesn't have our app, okay? The dispatcher, the office, always has override capability. So let's say Abe Lincoln is done with the first job, he calls the office. I can right-click and say set depart time to now. And now it says, do you want to close this call? So we're done for today, but are we done with the whole job? So here I can say yes or no. Let's say no. So that went to black. Now what it did was it actually time-stamped it to 2:52. I can override that. I can say, oh, really, they finished at 11:30. They just forgot to call me. Okay, and then the guy can tell you verbally what he did. He replaced power supply, or whatever he did on that call. You can go in and change the charges. I can go in and say, oh, okay, let's add in a part here. I'm just going to type, there's a power supply for a GE 2000 and a price. Okay, so I've just added that in the office manually. Same thing. Right now, we had estimated on this call 8 hours of labor, but we could go in and say, okay, I'm going to delete the estimate. Instead, I want to put actual. So I'm going to hit the labor button, and let's say we're going to charge $80 an hour. So it just added 3.75 hours for Abe Lincoln at $80. And any other resources, you could have a truck charge. So like I've got a delivery truck, but notice I've got no charge for it. It's just, I'm just recording that it was on there, but I'm not charging for it. But many of our clients charge for equipment usage. So they charge a daily fee or an hourly fee for a bucket truck or any, some specialized piece of equipment. Okay. And you could, even though you don't normally charge, let's say delivery truck, we're going to charge them a flat fee of $75 for a delivery truck. So I've got the part I thought we were going to use, but let's say I didn't use that. We've got a travel charge, we've got a power supply, we got usage of a delivery truck, and we've got 3.75 hours. Any of these items can be marked as taxable or non-taxable. Different states work differently. Some states everything's taxable, some states material only is taxable. So let's just say this one part's taxable. Also, on a part, I can have a cost and a selling price. The reason you want to do something like this, Same thing with Abe Lincoln, I can have a cost and selling price. And even the delivery truck, I can have a cost and selling price. So if I do that, okay, then, okay, so on this call, okay, I can create an invoice, and you don't have to, but most of our clients, the service call number, they also use as the invoice number. It's very, very nice to just have one number for everything. Anyway, when I do this, I can now print this as an invoice, okay? And it can be an invoice with or, remember, just like work orders can have prices or not, invoices can have prices or not. Now, this particular invoice has prices, and this invoice typically gets sent over to accounting software. So, and you know, with each of these lines. So this is a 4-line invoice, then with some sales tax. So it usually comes over to accounting as 5 lines, 4 lines plus the sales tax. We've got 4 minutes to go, so just a couple other things. Once you've got all this data in here, now we can do lots of management reports. You can have reports by technician. So you're looking at a technician and seeing everything that he or she did. So I could say, you know, hours detail by technician. So I could do 1 or more technicians. I could say, just show me month to date. So here's all the activity for this month. I can have reports by location. So I could pick ABC Building 1, and it shows me everything I've ever done out at ABC Building 1. Okay, so that's a history of this site. I can do reports like profit or loss by call. So here's a report. I've got 3 calls in there, shows a profit and loss on each call. Now there's the call I just put in, 3070, so I could do a detail by call. And here's that call I just billed out to Pembroke Builders. My billing price is $834, my cost is $480, so I, you know, profit and profit margin. And this is based on, you know, my selling price and my costs. If you're using this for CRM for sales, each salesman can have their own folder and what they care about. These are all the all George's customers and prospects. And here's all his open proposals. He's only got 1 open proposal. Same thing, Thomas, he's a new guy. He has a lot less customers. He's only got 6 customers and prospects he's working with. Okay, service contracts. You can set up a service contract, and normally this is done where people are charging by the month, quarter, or year to cover, to do blanket coverage for a building or a list of equipment. So I'm going to just put in a service contract. It's going to be for diamond service, whatever that means, and it's going to be for ABC Building 1. Okay, I could have a start date, let's say 01/17, and it could be a multi-year contract, so it's through 12/31/18. So we got a 2-year contract. Under that contract, I can say what equipment is covered. So this contract is only covering these 3 pieces of equipment. Then I could set up a preventative maintenance or planned maintenance schedule. I could say we want our service department to go out and schedule calls, let's say every 3 months, and I want my first call to be around January 15th, let's say. So what it just did was it booked 8 calls, 8 quarterly calls for the life of the contract. Then, even though I'm visiting them quarterly, I could say I want to bill them monthly. So I'm going to set up monthly billing, and I'm going to bill them $9.99 per month. And so you can set this up. It'll automatically generate bills every month for $9.99. Okay. and there's a function to do that. So now that's been added to our list of contracts. Now, since it's a contract, way back on our dispatch board, this was looking at the emergencies. Now let's say anything due within the next 30 days. Well, that was due January 15th, but we've never done that service. So it's going to stay there forever until somebody takes care of it. So you're not going to miss a service contract. So we're at our time for today. These were the highlights. If you've got any questions, feel free to call me. This is Jay Albrecht, or call our customer support department, and they'd be happy to address any of the issues that I covered today in more depth. Thank you, everyone, for participating, and we will send out an email with a link to this for a refresher or sharing with any other coworkers. Thanks, everyone. Bye.